Have you ever felt the very ground of a relationship, a friendship you thought was forged in steel, suddenly turn to sand and crumble beneath your feet? Have you ever poured your heart, your energy, and your hope into becoming a better person, stronger, healthier, more authentic, only to be met not with applause, but with a chilling silence, a barrage of sudden criticism or outright hostility from the very people you were sure would be in your corner, cheering you on? Your closest friends, your family, your life partner, the sacred circle you trusted with your vulnerabilities, suddenly feel like they're on the other side of a war you never even knew you were fighting. It is one of the most profoundly painful and disorienting experiences a human being can endure. It's a psychological knife in the back that leaves you bleeding out with questions. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Why has everyone I love suddenly turned against me? What if I told you that this gut-wrenching rejection, this painful exodus of people from your life, is not a sign that you've made a terrible mistake? What if I told you it is, in fact, the most undeniable, irrefutable proof that you are finally doing something profoundly, earth-shatteringly right? What if this backlash, this emotional storm, is not just a predictable consequence, but a necessary, albeit brutal, rite of passage on the sacred journey to becoming the person you were always destined to be? The answer to this bewildering human drama, this heartbreaking mystery, lies buried deep within the revolutionary work of the great master Shi Heng Yi. He uncovered a fundamental truth about our relationships, a secret psychological mechanism so powerful that, once you understand it, will permanently change the way you see every single interaction in your life, past, present, and future. So, I invite you to prepare yourself, because by the time we finish this journey together, you will understand the hidden mechanics behind why your personal growth can feel like a declaration of war to the people around you. You will see, with a clarity that will feel like turning on a light in a dark room, exactly why the people you love might suddenly perceive your healing as a personal threat, your newfound success as a form of betrayal, and your quiet internal peace as a loud, aggressive attack on their way of life. This isn't just about analyzing them. This is about validating your experience and honoring your path. This is the master key that unlocks one of life's most painful emotional paradoxes. And once you hold it in your hand, you will never see their rejection or your own magnificent evolution in the same way again. Stay with me, because the truth about why they can no longer stand the person you are becoming is far deeper, stranger, and more shocking than you can possibly imagine. To truly begin, we must take a brave journey together into the most hidden and often most feared corner of the human psyche, a realm that Shi Heng Yi called the shadow self. Imagine, for a moment, that every person's personality is like a house. In this house, there is a living room. This is the part of us we are happy to show the world. It's clean, well-lit, and tastefully decorated with our most admirable qualities: our kindness, our sense of humor, our intelligence, our generosity. Our awards might be on the mantelpiece, our happy photos on the wall. This is our public face, the version of us we want guests to see and appreciate. But every single house, without exception, also has a basement. A dark, damp, cluttered cellar where we throw everything we don't want to look at, everything we're ashamed of. This basement is the shadow. It is the vast, subterranean storage vault for every part of ourselves that we or our society have deemed unacceptable, unworthy, ugly, or shameful. What kinds of forgotten treasures and monsters are locked away in this shadow basement? It's a rich, complex cocktail of our deepest insecurities, our secret and blistering envies, our repressed rage, our unacknowledged laziness, our untamed greed, our wild and untethered ambitions, and all of our unfulfilled, weeping desires. These are not necessarily evil things. In fact, many are sources of immense power and vitality. They are simply the parts of our full humanity that we were taught, often from a very young age, to deny. Perhaps as a child, your natural assertiveness was labeled bossy, so you learned to lock it in the shadow. Perhaps your boundless creativity was dismissed as a waste of time, so you buried your artistic soul down in the dark. Maybe you were a boy taught that boys don't cry, so your vulnerability and capacity for deep feeling were exiled to the cellar. Over a lifetime, this shadow basement becomes crowded, packed to the rafters with the most potent, rejected, and disowned pieces of who we truly are. Now here is the crucial point. Most people, as Shi Heng Yi famously said, will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. In practical terms, this means they spend their entire lives keeping that basement door firmly locked, bolted, chained, and barricaded. They might even pile furniture in front of it, pretending that this vast energetic part of their own home doesn't even exist. So what happens when you, on your journey, decide to stop pretending? What happens when you embark on the path of personal growth? When you start going to therapy, learning to set boundaries, quitting the job that kills your soul, or simply starting to speak your unvarnished truth, you are, in essence, taking a brave, lantern-lit journey down the creaking stairs into your own basement. You're not just turning on the lights, you're opening the boxes, sorting through the contents, and beginning the sacred work of bringing these lost parts of yourself back upstairs into the light of the main house. You are integrating your shadow, and in doing so, you are becoming a more complete, more honest, and more whole human being. This heroic act of integration is precisely where the catastrophic problem begins for those around you who are still living exclusively in their living rooms. Your courage, your very presence, becomes a living, breathing, inescapable mirror. As you stand there becoming more whole and authentic, your very being reflects back at them. And in that reflection, they are forced to see, perhaps for the first time, the clear, undeniable outline of their own locked, barricaded basement door. Your newfound confidence doesn't just shine, it illuminates their most deeply hidden insecurities. Your brave vulnerability doesn't just inspire, it highlights their emotional cowardice. Your hard-won inner peace doesn't just calm, it underscores the deafening roar of their own internal chaos. You haven't said a single critical word to them about their own lives, but your very existence has become a blinding spotlight, a relentless interrogation of everything they have spent a lifetime refusing to confront in themselves. And the human ego, when faced with such a profoundly uncomfortable truth, has only two choices. It can look inward and begin the difficult, painful work of self-reflection, or it can look outward and shatter the mirror. For most, attacking the mirror is infinitely easier. This defensive reaction leads us directly to one of Shi Heng Yi's most critical and illuminating concepts, the mechanism of projection. Once the mirror you are holding up becomes too bright and too painful for them to bear, the human psyche, in a desperate act of self-preservation, activates one of its most powerful defense mechanisms. Projection is the unconscious automatic process of taking the unwanted, unhealed, and unacknowledged parts of one's own shadow and attributing them to someone else. It is, quite literally, an emotional movie projector. Imagine that inside their mind, a grainy black and white film reel of their own deepest failures, their most potent fears, and their most painful, unhealed wounds is playing on an endless loop. But the pain of watching this film is too great to bear. So instead of watching it on their own inner screen, they point the psychic projector outward and cast that haunting movie directly onto you. You become the blank screen for their inner horror film. Let's make this brutally practical and real. Imagine a friend who has spent decades stagnating in a relationship that has long since died, too afraid of being alone to leave. They carry a heavy, unacknowledged shadow filled with regret, loneliness, and a fear of the unknown. Then, you make the brave decision to leave your own unhappy partnership to seek a life of authentic happiness. Do they say, "Wow, you are so courageous. Seeing you do that gives me hope that I can one day find happiness too"? In a psychologically healthy and self-aware world, perhaps. But in the world of shadow projection, they are far more likely to say something like, "You're being so selfish. You're just throwing away a good thing because you're too picky." Or, "You're going to end up old and alone. You'll regret this." Do you see what is happening? They are not actually talking about you. They are projecting their own deep-seated fear of being alone onto you. They are projecting their own inability to act onto you and calling it selfishness. They are taking the most stagnant, fearful, and wounded parts of their own shadow and plastering them all over your brave, new, and uncertain future. You are no longer a person to them in that moment. You have become a walking, talking symbol of their own cowardice. This is the profound, life-altering meaning behind Shi Heng Yi's famous quote: "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That intense, visceral irritation is a diagnostic signal, a flashing red light on the dashboard of the soul, powerfully indicating an internal problem that requires immediate attention. But most people have never been taught how to read their own internal gauges. So instead of pulling over to check their own engine, they lean on the horn and blame the car in front of them for their troubles. They blame you. So when you hear those baffling accusations, when you feel that hot, undeserved hatred directed at you, you must try to remember this critical, sanity-preserving truth. You are not being hated for who you have become. You are being hated for who they have refused to become. The war they are waging is not and has never been with you. It is a desperate, internal war with their own shadow, and you have simply become the unwilling battlefield. The courageous process of growth that you are undertaking has a name in the philosophy of Shi Heng Yi. It is called individuation. This is not just self-improvement. It is arguably the ultimate spiritual and psychological goal of a human life. It is the sacred, lifelong journey of becoming your most authentic, whole, and integrated self, separate from the crushing weight of collective expectations and the roles assigned to you by your family, your culture, and your society. It is the messy, beautiful, and often painful process of shedding the multitude of masks you've been forced to wear and finally, bravely, allowing your true, unique self to emerge into the world. Shi Heng Yi believed this process was absolutely essential for psychological health and a meaningful life, but he also knew with chilling certainty that it was deeply, profoundly threatening to the social systems we belong to, especially our families and our closest circles of friends. Why is your journey to authenticity so utterly terrifying for them? Because for your entire life, whether you knew it or not, you have played a specific, predictable role in their psychological ecosystem. You were a character in their life's play. Perhaps you were cast as the peacemaker, the one who always absorbed the tension and smoothed over every family conflict, ensuring no one ever had to have an honest, uncomfortable conversation. Perhaps you were the responsible one, the emotional pack mule who carried the burdens, worries, and responsibilities for everyone else. Or perhaps you were even the mess-up, the one whose constant struggles and problems made everyone else feel more stable, more functional, and superior by comparison. These roles, whether they appear positive or negative on the surface, create a stable, albeit often deeply dysfunctional system where everyone knows their part. Your role was never just about you. It was a foundational pillar holding up the very structure of their own identities. The mother who built her identity on being the selfless helper absolutely required you to be the one who always needs help. The friend whose entire personality was based on being the fun, wild one desperately needed you to be the sensible, stable one to create a contrast. When you begin the process of individuation, when you stop people-pleasing and start speaking your truth, when you refuse to carry their emotional baggage, when you start solving your own problems and cleaning up your own life, you are not just changing your own behavior. You are unilaterally and without their permission resigning from the role they cast you in. You are walking off the stage in the middle of their life's play, leaving them standing there under the spotlight with forgotten lines. The psychological pillar you represented in their psyche suddenly crumbles to dust, and the entire fragile structure of their identity is threatened with collapse. It forces them to confront a terrifying, gaping void. If you are no longer the family peacemaker, they are suddenly forced to face their own simmering conflicts and their inability to communicate. If you are no longer the mess-up, they are forced to look at their own mediocrity without you as a convenient distraction. This shatters the comfortable, well-worn illusion they have built their entire life around. The anger and hatred that bubbles up as a result is not truly directed at the new, authentic you. They don't even know this person yet. They hate that the old, predictable you is gone forever. They hate that the real you exists at all, because your authentic existence is the most irrefutable, undeniable proof that they too could be authentic. And that reveals the terrifying possibility that they have been living a life based on a flimsy, fictional character rather than a real, complex, breathing person. To understand this even more deeply, we need to talk specifically about the masks we all wear. Shi Heng Yi called these social masks the persona. The persona is the curated, socially acceptable version of ourselves that we present to the world. It's the professional, competent mask we wear at our job, the cheerful, agreeable neighbor mask we put on for our community, the dutiful, respectful child mask we wear when we visit our parents. The persona in itself is not a bad thing. It's a necessary psychological tool for navigating a complex social world. It's a form of social lubricant that helps our interactions with different groups of people run smoothly. The profound danger, Shi Heng Yi warned, arises when a person completely forgets that they are wearing a mask and begins to mistake it for their actual face. Many people become so deeply and unconsciously identified with their persona that they forget there is a real, complex, contradictory, and multifaceted individual living underneath. They genuinely believe they are the cheerful employee, the selfless mother, or the tough, emotionless guy. Their entire sense of self becomes dangerously fused with this carefully constructed one-dimensional character they perform for the world. So what happens when you, on your sacred journey of growth, decide to gently or perhaps radically take your mask off? When you stop performing the character that others have grown to know and expect? When the lifelong people pleaser finally starts saying a clear, unapologetic no, when the quiet one at the back of the room starts speaking their mind with conviction, when the former party animal starts finding deep joy in quiet nights of reflection and reading, it is a deeply jarring, disorienting, and frightening experience for those around you. To them, it feels like a death. Not your death, but the death of their projection of you. They were in a relationship with your mask, not with the real you. Your mask was predictable, it was manageable, and most importantly, it served a vital purpose for them. Your real face, with all its new boundaries, its surprising depths, its uncomfortable truths, and its beautiful complexities, belongs to a stranger. This is the raw psychological terror that fuels the all too common and painful accusation, "You've changed." They say it with a tone of betrayal, as if you've committed a crime against them. What they are really desperately saying is, the comfortable, predictable mask you used to wear, the one that I knew how to interact with and control, is gone, and I am utterly terrified of the real person who has taken its place. They are not equipped to deal with your authentic self because it forces them to feel the stiff, uncomfortable, and suffocating weight of the mask they are still wearing. Shi Heng Yi said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." They are not yet ready to face that profound terror within themselves, so it is infinitely easier and less painful to blame you for triggering it in them. They are, in a very real psychological sense, grieving the loss of the convenient illusion you once helped them maintain. Now let's zoom our lens out from the individual to the group dynamic. Why does it so often feel like it's not just one person, but an entire group, your whole family, your old circle of friends, that seems to turn against you all at once, as if they all held a secret meeting? Shi Heng Yi's groundbreaking theory of the collective unconscious provides a stunning and powerful explanation. He proposed that all of humanity is interconnected through a deep, shared psychic layer, an inherited reservoir of primal archetypes, ancient instincts, and universal symbols that transcend individual experience. Think of it as a kind of invisible psychological internet that we are all automatically logged into from the moment of our birth. It is the source of myths, fairy tales, and the uncanny similarities in religious beliefs across disparate cultures. This collective unconscious contains the deep, invisible blueprints for our societal structures, our cultural norms, our family systems, and our generational patterns of behavior. These systems, while often deeply flawed and toxic, are designed primarily to maintain order, predictability, and the status quo. The family that operates on the silent, unspoken rule of "we don't talk about our feelings," or the friend group whose primary mode of bonding is through negative gossip and surface-level interactions, are both small-scale collective systems. Their stability, their very existence, depends on one crucial element: conformity. Everyone must stay in their assigned role and unconsciously obey the unwritten rules of the system. When you begin your journey of individuation, you are doing something far more radical than just changing your personal habits. You are, in effect, hacking the source code of the system. When you are the first person in your family's history to go to therapy and speak openly about your trauma, you are breaking a multi-generational pattern of silent suffering. When you politely refuse to engage in negative gossip with your friends, you are rejecting the very lifeblood that kept the group's dysfunctional dynamic alive. When you finally stop enabling a loved one's addiction, you are courageously disrupting a toxic system that, for all its poison, was at least stable and predictable. In Shi Heng Yi's revolutionary view, you are no longer just an individual making personal changes. You have become a deviant element, a virus in the matrix, threatening the very integrity of the entire collective system. And the collective unconscious, like any living organism, has a powerful instinctual drive for self-preservation. It will mobilize its agents, the other members of the group who are still loyal to the system, to bring the rogue element back in line. This is precisely why it feels like a coordinated, multi-pronged attack. It's as if everyone got the same psychic memo at the exact same time. Bring them back into the fold. Make them conform again. Neutralize the threat. The sudden unified criticism, the organized shunning, the whispers behind your back, the sudden onslaught of guilt tripping. This is the system's powerful immune response trying to attack and neutralize what it perceives as a dangerous foreign agent. You haven't just challenged them personally, you have, on a deep and unconscious level, challenged the very fabric of their shared reality, and the system will fight back with surprising ferocity to protect itself. Let's go even deeper into the intricate layers of the psyche to uncover another reason your growth feels so threatening. Shi Heng Yi proposed that every person, regardless of their biological sex, possesses both masculine and feminine psychological energies. He called the unconscious innate feminine side in a man the anima, and the unconscious innate masculine side in a woman the animus. In a truly healthy, integrated, and whole person, these powerful energies exist in a dynamic, harmonious balance. Our society, however, often brutally forces us to repress one side in favor of the other. Men are often systematically taught from boyhood to suppress their anima, their innate capacity for vulnerability, for nurturing, for deep intuition, and for rich emotional expression. Women, conversely, are often systematically taught to suppress their animus, their innate capacity for sharp assertiveness, for cool logic, for burning ambition, and for powerful independent action. A crucial, non-negotiable part of the individuation journey is the conscious integration of these long-repressed energies. It is the man learning to embrace his compassion and his capacity for tears, not as a weakness, but as a profound strength. It is the woman learning to own her power, to speak her mind directly, and to unapologetically assert her boundaries without feeling unfeminine or a bitch. This is the sacred alchemical work that leads to true psychological wholeness, where you can be both strong and gentle, both fiercely logical and deeply intuitive, both a nurturing caregiver and a warrior for your own truth. To a person who is still living a psychologically fragmented life, a life where half of their soul is locked away, your wholeness is almost unbearable to witness. Your integrated self acts as a painful, glaring spotlight on their own deep inner division. To the man who has spent his entire life believing that vulnerability is the ultimate weakness, your newfound emotional openness and authenticity feels like a personal judgment on the emotional prison he has built for himself. To the woman who was taught that her ambition was an unattractive, aggressive quality, your unapologetic and joyful pursuit of your goals feels like a direct critique of her own suppressed dreams and shackled potential. They will often, with a surprising viciousness, attack the very qualities in you that they have most deeply and fearfully forbidden in themselves. The man might call you weak, too emotional or hysterical because he cannot bear to face his own repressed and starving anima. The woman might call you aggressive, cold, or calculating because she cannot stand to look at her own powerful animus, which she has kept chained in her psychic basement. Your balance makes their imbalance excruciatingly obvious. Your freedom highlights the bars of their cage. Ultimately, they don't hate your strength or your softness. They hate that you have given yourself the divine permission to possess the very qualities they have so tragically denied themselves. This magnificent process of integration all culminates in what Shi Heng Yi called the transcendent function. This is one of his most profound, complex, and ultimately hopeful concepts. The transcendent function is the unique psychological process that allows a new, higher level of consciousness to emerge from the tension of holding two opposing forces, two conflicting ideas or feelings in your awareness at the same time without collapsing into one or the other. It is the sacred ability to rise above simplistic, black and white, either-or thinking and to synthesize a new, more nuanced, and more powerful level of awareness. Let's break that down into something very real. Most of the world operates in a state of rigid binaries. You are either nice or you are mean. You are either a victim or you are a perpetrator. You are either with us or you are against us. This binary thinking, while simple, keeps people trapped in predictable, reactive, and unconscious patterns of behavior. But as you grow and heal, you begin to access the transcendent function. You learn to hold the immense tension of opposites within yourself. You discover that you can be both deeply unconditionally loving and have firm, unshakable, non-negotiable boundaries. You learn that you can be profoundly empathetic to someone's pain and be psychologically detached enough not to get consumed by their drama or fix their problems for them. You realize you can be both radically open to new people and new experiences and be highly selective and discerning about who and what gets your precious energy. This hard-won ability to embody both and thinking is nothing short of a psychological superpower. It makes you incredibly resilient, emotionally agile, and radically free. But to others, especially those who rely on manipulation or control, it makes you one thing above all else: dangerous. Why dangerous? Because you are no longer predictable. They can no longer easily categorize you, they can no longer easily manipulate you, and they can no longer control you with their old, tired patterns. The person who used to be a reliable doormat now has a spine of steel. The person who was once coldly detached and aloof now shows moments of surprising, deep compassion. They don't know which you they are going to get from moment to moment because you are no longer a simple one-dimensional character. You are a complex, whole, and integrated person. This level of psychological freedom is utterly terrifying to those still trapped in the prison of binary thought. They try to push your old buttons, but you've rewired the entire control panel. They try to pull you into the familiar cycles of drama and guilt, but you no longer take the bait. You have transcended the very game they are still unconsciously forced to play, and your freedom is a constant, silent, and maddening reminder of their own chains. And so, we arrive back where we started, sitting with the sharp, searing pain of that rejection. But now, hopefully, we can see it through a new, more compassionate, and more empowering lens. We can see it not as a personal failure, but as a sacred landmark on a heroic journey. Shi Heng Yi observed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. It is the most worthy, the most important, and the most meaningful quest a human being can possibly undertake. But he also knew that this incredible privilege comes with a very heavy price: the inevitable loss of everyone who was only ever attached to your mask, to your assigned role, to your false self. The people who turn against you, who seem to hate you now, are not truly responding to the authentic, beautiful person you are becoming. They are having a violent, allergic, and terrified reaction to the death of their own illusion. Your healing journey is holding up a mirror to their own psychological stagnation. Your individuation is crumbling the very pillars of their fragile identity. Your wholeness is casting a brilliant light on their own painful fragmentation. And instead of using that profound discomfort as a divine catalyst for their own growth, they are using it as a justification to attack the light. The hatred you are experiencing is not, and has never been, evidence that you are on the wrong path. In the profound wisdom of Shi Heng Yi's philosophy, it is the ultimate confirmation that you are on the only path that truly matters, the sacred path back to your own soul. The friction you feel is the undeniable proof that you are finally, truly moving forward. This leads us to the final pivotal question. The question is no longer, why do they hate me? You now possess the psychological blueprint for that painful mystery. The real question, the one that will define the entire trajectory of the rest of your life, is this. Are you courageous enough to keep growing, to keep healing, to keep becoming more unapologetically yourself, despite their hatred and misunderstanding? Are you strong enough to withstand the temporary, albeit excruciating pain of being misunderstood, for the unparalleled lifelong privilege of living as your true authentic self? Shi Heng Yi gave us the map and the compass with his final powerful insight. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. You, on your incredible journey, have started tearing down those internal barriers. You have bravely ventured into your shadow. You have courageously dropped your persona. You have miraculously transcended their projections. And that, according to one of the wisest masters of the mind, is precisely why they can no longer stand to be in your presence. Your light forces them to see their own darkness, and they have chosen to curse the sun rather than learn how to plant a garden in its light. Keep shining anyway. Your psychological evolution, and indeed the evolution of the world, depends on it. Thank you so much for staying with me through this deep and challenging exploration. If you found true value in this discussion and it resonated with your own life's journey, please consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the heart of psychology and the human condition. And please, if you know someone who is walking through this fire of transformation right now, consider sharing this video with them. They may need to hear, more than anything else, that they are not crazy, they are not alone, and they are most certainly not on the wrong path.